Hi, thanks for clicking this video. It's been a really long time, hasn't it? I'm sorry. I unfortunately had some life things come up and I wasn't able to do anything, really. So my editing of these videos it took so long to do. I have both everything I read in March and April all together. I have a lot to say about the books I read for the TBR challenge, and I'm excited to read the books I pulled for May. I'm currently reading it already. So honestly, without further ado, please enjoy. Let me know if you've read any good books lately. I'm always open to recommendations. I do need to read books outside of this TBR project. So honestly, if you have any good audiobooks, that would be wonderful. I love a good audiobook. I just haven't been very even just my my book club picks. That's why I'm doing like a wrap up, I guess, of everything I read. But the first two books are from the TBR jar. So why do I keep saying jar? It's a box. Anyway. Okay, so the first thing I had to read was the entire Scott Pilgrim series, which is only a 6-volume series, so it didn't take me very long to read. But yeah, that's what I spun the wheel and I got Scott Pilgrim. So it was actually a reread for me, which was really fun. It's been, I don't know how long. It's been a little while. At least like 5+ years since I had reread Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim is a super well-loved and known like 6-volume graphic novel series. First volume was released in 2004, and since then it's gotten like a live action movie, 2 video games, or like it's one released and one announced video game. I don't remember. There's a mobile version of the graphic novel that has like sound effects in it and like music. I think I haven't actually looked at that, and I think the most recent release was Scott Pilgrim's Takes Off, which is an anime retelling of the events of the Scott Pilgrim series. Basically, like, you probably know what Scott Pilgrim is about. You were choosing to watch me, an anime slug thing on the internet, give book reviews, and happen to not know what Scott Pilgrim is. Here is a synopsis, I guess, of the plot. Scott Pilgrim is a 23-year-old Canadian living in mild squalor in an apartment with his gay roommate. He is also the bassist of the garage band formed with his friends called Sex Bomb. We could quickly realize Scott really does not have anything in his life together, as the opening line of the series is, "Scott Pilgrim is dating a high schooler!" Like, bro. Ew, you're 23. The story begins with Scott quickly realizing that dating the very nice but far too young and good for Scott Knives Chow is not as great as he thought it would be. I'll hand it to Scott. He's not creepy with her, but he does lead her on in a way that is like very emotionally toxic, and wow, you're shitty, bro. Especially because shortly after he starts dating Knives, Scott meets the mysterious American Ramona Flowers, who has recently moved to Toronto and has been using Scott's brain as a warp tunnel to make her Amazon deliveries faster. Anyway, Scott and Ramona start dating, and Scott quickly finds out that he must defeat Ramona's 6 evil exes who each have magical supernatural powers in order to continue dating Ramona. Ultimately, this was a fun reread for me. I started reading Scott Pilgrim shortly after the final volume released, so first, yes, I am very old, I know, but also I don't even remember how I found out about Scott Pilgrim. I just like found it one day in a bookstore and I fell in love with the art style, I think. I really don't remember. It may have been subliminal marketing because the live action movie came out just a few months later. I'm not sure. Anyway, on reread, I kind of feel the same way that I felt last time I reread the series, except this time I felt so old. Like, remember when Amazon was just an online service you could like exclusively buy books or CDs from? I had forgotten that Scott also doesn't really know how to use the internet or like answer emails or anything like that. And like back in 2004, that was like pretty normal to not know how to like send an email, I guess, still. What a simpler time. The world building is still really fun in Scott Pilgrim. It's like urban fantasy, but the fantasy part is like video game power-ups, and not in an annoying way, like having a UI visible to just the protagonist and having like an omniscient narrator telling you what to do and that kind of thing. However, Scott still sucks. Like, I don't think my opinion will ever really change on that aspect. Scott really sucks. And that's kind of the point of the series. If you read this and you think, wow, I'm just like Scott, please go look deep inside yourself and ask why you use people that way. Why are you so annoying? Anyway, I could go into a full-blown analysis about Scott Pilgrim as a whole, but I have other things I need to review today, so I will not. But honestly, if you like graphic novels, you should probably try this. A lot of artists and authors have taken a lot of inspiration from O'Malley, and I can completely see why. It's a very charming series. Go find out for yourself. The whole colorized editions are of this series are free on the Internet Archive to read, so I don't know what's stopping you. Okay, the second book I pulled, which I owned, so I'll pull that out. Ba-bum! Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. Going into this book, I knew that it would be inspired by a Shakespeare play because I've read a different book by her last year called Immortal Longings, which was based on Antony and Cleopatra, and I knew her first series that did very well, that I haven't read yet, was based on Romeo and Juliet. So I was like, okay, I don't know which one this was because the inner synopsis doesn't say what Shakespearean play this is going to be. But as I started reading it, I realized this is As You Like It. It's based on As You Like It, which it's probably a much lesser known Shakespearean play, but I kind of think that works for this book too, because you really don't need to know anything about the original inspiration to read these books. I didn't realize that it was As You Like It till like about 10% through, but that did actually make it a more enjoyable reading experience for me. As You Like It usually isn't like required reading in high school or college, so all you really need to know is that that's the play that the line "all the world's a stage and all the men and women are merely players" quote is from, but it's a rom-com. It's like a romantic comedy play, so I was like kind of expecting this to be a funnier book. It's not. It's not, but that's okay. What it's about is it's like a more fantastical version of 1930s China. Rosalind Long has been brought back from death after being injected with some weird stuff on her deathbed, and now she has stopped aging and gained the supernatural ability to quickly heal after being injured. This has made her an excellent assassin for her country, but when the Japanese Imperial Army starts to invade China, Rosalind is taken off assassin duties and is instead given a mission to infiltrate a Japanese press, like a printing press in Shanghai, to uncover a terror plot. She is paired with Orion Hong, also a spy, and they are to pose as a married couple to aid in reducing suspicion as they investigate the Japanese printing press company. They do a good job at unraveling the conspiracy, but as it turns out, the plots are deeper than they could have imagined. I read this book in every way you can possibly read a book. I read it physically. I read the digital version, the ebook of this. I listened to the audiobook. Ultimately, I read like half the book on audiobook. It was a pretty good audiobook, so I do recommend it that way if you can do audiobooks, because I ended up driving a lot last weekend. But yeah, this is pretty good. Why so many meanings? Because actually, I can't explain that. The thing with Chloe Gong's writing is that she has a really good plot, but she writes so many run-on sentences that makes it hard for me to read this physically, which is why I switched over to the audiobook in the end. And I don't know how she gets by, how the editors aren't like, why are you writing in so many run-on sentences? Why is this okay? Like, she's not a bad writer, she just needs to add some more periods to her sentences. That's ultimately why so many mediums. But if you're just listening to the narrator talk to you, tell you the story, you don't hear that there's so many. It doesn't feel like they're run-on sentences. But when you're reading them, they're really long. They're like paragraph-long sentences sometimes. Anyway, this book has a really slow start, but it became a real page turner by the 50% mark. Personally, I really like spy stories. So I was already the intended market for this book, which is probably why I picked it up on a whim. I just bought this book. I just saw it and I was like, cool. And I bought it a couple years ago now. I don't remember. Maybe 2022, 2023. I don't remember. It's 3 or 4 years ago at this point, and I just never ended up reading it until now. And it's why did I wait this long? Yeah, my number one gripe with YA, this is a young adult-ish novel. It's new adult, an older teen is the intended market for this, not a 13-year-old, more like a 17, 18-year-old. My number one gripe with young adult novels was happily not present in this book. Rosalind comes off as being this super badass, super cool, stubborn, bad attitude young adult main character that you get a lot in those kinds of books, but I was happy to see that the author fleshes her character out quite a bit to make me understand why she acts like that. Doesn't just have a bad attitude because oh, my mom died and I hate everyone now. She has legit reason. Not that having a bad attitude because your mom died isn't a legit reason, but she has more than just that more than just the world wronged me as to why she's like that. Anyway, The inspiration taken from the Shakespearean play added for some cute romantic dynamics throughout the book, and I really appreciate the various perspectives, especially that one of those perspectives comes from a trans character. It was just really nice to see. The plot also didn't focus really at all on the fact that she was trans either, which it was just like a known thing in the plot, and if anyone brings it up, it was simply to make sure that she felt comfortable with whatever was going on. There are spy shenanigans in this book that had some fantastical twists that left me wanting to keep reading. Like, I just, like, there comes a point where it's like, well, I gotta know what happens next. I don't want to spoil too much, but there are certain aspects of this book that really felt like they were vaguely inspired by Spy Family. The male lead is a spy, and the female lead is an assassin. They agree to a fake marriage. They're both very good at their job, but have secrets they don't want the other to know about. But honestly, I think that it's just the fake marriage plus spies thing is just a fun thing to read about. I can think of a few like movies that are like that too. So I don't think it was directly inspired by Spy Family, but it has the vibes of Spy Family. So if you do like Spy Family, I recommend this. For a long time I was reading this, I was like, this is just Spy Family without Anya, but there is Anya. She's there. She's just not a little child. She's there though. This is one of the books that I had on my TBR for so long, and I'm glad that I finally read it. I'm grateful that I purchased it now, and I'll be keeping it. Oh yeah, it has sprayed red edges, which is kind of neat. This is the special edition of the book too. Normally it's like a pink cover and it's signed. Hooray! Thank you, Chloe, for writing a fun book, Chloe Gong. The other books I read this month are The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson and Last Best Quest Ever by F.T. Lukens. I really am not going to talk about Space Between Worlds much at all. We read this for a book club, and I read this back in like 2023, so it was a reread for me. This book is really good. I quite recommend it. It's a debut science fiction novel, and it's an example. It's kind of like, it is an Afrofuturism novel. It's a dystopian narrative that follows Kara, an impoverished woman who travels between parallel universes on behalf of a powerful exploitative corporation. While navigating the stresses and dangers of multiple worlds, she uncovers a conspiracy that forces her to confront her past and challenge the power structures of her world. It's actually a really cool book. It takes like multiple universe series, but it's like you can't go to another multiverse if the multiverse version of you is alive. You can only go if you are dead. And so the people that can travel through two different multiverses are generally people that grow up in like impoverished, people that don't have very many opportunities type of life. Like that's the life they're born into. A lot of the people that can jump are black and brown, and it leads to a really interesting and like powerful discussion about using things that seem like a blessing but are not necessarily a blessing. I talk about this a lot in my book club VOD, so just go watch that, honestly. And honestly, if that sounds interesting, I highly recommend it. It's not a very long book. It's like maybe an 8-hour audiobook, and it's a 300-page book, so just go pick it up. It's really good. And then, so every March, the past few Marches, 4 or 5 Marches, why am I discussing like a month like it's like, anyway. I don't know. I have requested the new F.T. Lukens book that gets published sometime in the year that I requested the book to read for review. I've requested the new F.T. Lukens book to review for like a few years now. This year's book is The Last Best Quest Ever by F.T. Lukens. And I read it, this book comes out in May, so it's not out yet, but I'm going to review it anyway, just for you. So this book is about Eleanor. She has the best questing record of anyone in the world's kingdom's history. But there's just one thing. Eleanor has never told the truth of what happens on her quests, and she doesn't want anyone to find out what she is really doing and what makes her so good at questing. She has saved up enough money from questing to buy her parents' house by the seaside and declares that she is retiring from the gig. She goes home. She goes to her old home, not the seaside home yet, to meet up with her twin brother Zig before they're both going to head out to the seaside. But before the ultimate quiet and peace can be achieved, her brother gets involved in a horrible bet that involves his literal life. He bets his literal life, like his whole life, for the horn of an elder beast. So now Eleanor has to go on one last quest to save her brother from death. But this time it's different. Eleanor isn't questing alone. Her brother Zig is along for the adventure, naturally determined to not die, despite getting himself into this position. But she is also joined by Avon, Eleanor's rival in questing, joining her per decree of the king, and not at all because they might have a huge crush on Eleanor. Nope, nah, what would make you think that? Based on this cover. As the adventuring party makes their way to find the horn of the elder beast, Eleanor has to confront not only the dangers along the way, but also the truth of her previous questing. Also, Princette Avon is a non-binary princette. They have princesses, they have princes, and they have princettes in this world. Rivals to lovers tag on this one. Yes, for sure. It's very cute. So I've enjoyed all of F.T. Lukens' books, and I enjoyed this one as well. But it didn't have as much of a punch as the other novels do. I really enjoyed, last year I read Love at Second Sight. I think that one it's a supernatural book rather than like a super fantasy style book, but I liked that one. That one was really punchy, so I really liked it. But this still kept me entertained while my 6-hour travel day from Austin, Texas to Florida turned into a 12-hour flight. So I can say with confidence that this was entertaining, even if it wasn't even though I thought that Lukens' other books are slightly better than this one. All the characters were quite entertaining and lovable, even if Zig in particular was quite frustrating at times. Eleanor's struggles are relatable, and I think you'll relate to her struggles as well. Even if she didn't want to go on the quest, joining her on her last best quest ever was fun for me as the reader. I do wish this novel had been a bit more fleshed out, though. Like, every scene was fun, but it also just felt like a set piece rather than part of a living, breathing world with dragons and fairies, even though there are dragons and fairies, and this very much so should be a living and breathing world. There's some lore information on how the world works, but I wanted more. The relationship between Eleanor and Avon is super cute, but I wanted to be, like, killed by their cuteness together. This book just had me going, like, eee, they're so cute. But I was still, like, standing. I, like, still had, like, 5% health left. I wanted to be KO'd. And my only real warning with this book is that, the setting is kind of medieval fantasy, but there's a lot of anachronistic vernacular. So if that's something that bothers you, just steer clear. But otherwise, if you're just looking to have a fun time with a very silly rivals to lovers, there's a dragon named Dave. Like, it's just a fun little romp of a book. Go ahead and dive into it. I'm going to pull some books. Okay, I actually don't have that many books left anymore, which is great because, I don't know, we're getting down to the wire. Not the wire, to the last book. So I'm just going to quickly just go for it. Just draw a couple. My arm is in such a weird position to do this. I haven't stirred this up in a while either. Let's go do this one. It's a book. What did I pull? I don't know what this book is about. Hold on. I haven't seen this book since I made a mini book for it. Okay. It's a book called Welcome to Dorley Hall. Braca Quiltusk suggested it. A closeted trans girl attempts to infiltrate a secret underground forced feminization program. Okay. This is a transgender horror novel, it seems. Oh god, this is long. 511 pages. Okay. I'm going to be reading that in April. And then what else will I read? I'm going to move this off to the side. My only concern is that it won't be written very well, but I think yeah, definitely nighttime reading for sure. You're right there. But I've had very good luck with Braca's suggestions, so. My next one is also a book. Let's see what it is. It is, oh gosh, I haven't read this book yet, and I really should read it, so it's a good thing I have it, that I'm pulling it now. A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. And I have this book. Ta-da! A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. This is probably the oldest book that I've had on my to be read shelf. So very happy to get through it now. Very happy to get to it. What is it about? Yeah, Jack Tamerlane hasn't set foot on Cadence in 10 long years, content to study music at the mainland university. But when young girls start disappearing from the why are these both about disappearing people? Jack is summoned home to help find them. Enchantments run deep in Cadence. Gossip is carried by the wind. Plaid shawls can be as strong as armor, and the smallest cut of a knife can instill fathomless fear. Okay. This one is like I think it's a romantasy that has more leaning towards the romance portion than the not. This one's kind of long too. How long are you? Only long books. Oh, just almost 500 pages too. Okay, well, it's probably good that I'm only pulling 2 because 500, like, I can basically get through 300 to 400 pages of a book in about a week. So if it's 500, like, I need a little bit longer. But yeah.
One eternity later.
2 books that I pulled last time were Welcome to Dorley Hall by Alyson Greaves and A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. So we're going to start with Welcome to Dorley Hall. because I read this book first. Actually, I got this book physically, which I didn't realize that it was all available for free online. I'll talk about that in a minute. The TLDR on this book is that this is a story about a closeted trans girl attempting to infiltrate a secret underground forced feminization program. But a more detailed explanation of the story is that this story centers around Stefan Riley, mostly referred to as Steph in this novel. Their best friend growing up had a big bro that Stefan really looked up to, and they were good friends with this guy. His name was Mark. However, after Mark went off to study at the Royal College of St. Almsworth, he disappeared in his second semester. Maybe it was second semester, not fact checking that right now. Shortly after that, he was declared missing and dead. Probably dead. 1 year later, Steph runs into a girl that looks super similar to Mark. And shortly after, Steph becomes obsessed, convinced that this girl was actually Mark, just, transitioned. Steph finds that other boys have been disappearing from the college, a lot of them actually, many with troubled history. So a few years pass, Stefan has been accepted into St. Almsworth with the singular goal to figure out what is happening to the boys that get disappeared, and what is up with the women that live at Dorley Hall. Maybe what happens could happen to him too? Like, Stefan actually would like that? Actually? The story presents itself as a thriller, but it's really not. I don't have a good genre I would solely put this in, but it's not really horror because the main character wants the forced feminization that's happening at Dorley Hall, and it's not really a thriller or a mystery because the main character knows what's going on at Dorley Hall pretty early on in this novel. Honestly, I guess it's all of those genres depending on the story's perspectives, but I'd say this is, if I has to have a genre, it's like trauma bonding queer fiction with horror flair. Yeah. That being said, it would behoove me to read the content note to you in case you're interested in reading this. This story engages with some reasonably dark topics, including but not limited to torture, manipulation, dysphoria, non-consensual surgery, and kidnapping. While it isn't intended to be dark or dystopian story, the prospective characters are carrying a lot of baggage, and the exploration of the premise might be triggering for trans readers. Yeah, this book was a very entertaining read, despite not being very well written. However, I imagine this book is incredibly relatable to many, and that's all it really needs to be. Greaves really succeeds in writing dialogue, but doesn't seem to take as much time writing descriptions for what things or people look like. It left me a bit lost at times, but it was fine because the dialogue is the most important part. It's interesting. It's sort of was a perplexing read for me. The characters' internal struggles are most definitely relatable to a trans reader, and I think if you pick this up, you're definitely going to get something positive out of it. There is a lot of retelling of plot points that just happen, but the perspective changed, so you have to let the other characters know what happened verbatim because those characters don't know, but you as a reader have just read what happened, so you already know. This is not bad per se, but it makes for the story to be much longer than necessary in my opinion. This all made sense when I realized that this book has AO3 origins, like it was originally, like, I guess published on AO3, with the last few chapters of this book being an improvement in writing than the beginning few chapters. I'm like literally reading this author's growth in her craft, and that's all fine and well. I just wish I had realized this before picking up this book for my library. This book was a perplexing read because, again, it's really not written with a discerning hand. It could really use a professional edit, but it still was incredibly entertaining to me. I didn't know going in that this novel was independently published because the series on AO3 got popular. I would have been less confused if I had realized that earlier on, because it was like, wow, this part is great, and then, oh wow, this part is not coherent at all. My biggest nitpick is just me being me. This isn't a real, like, this is just literally just a nitpick. It's not a big deal. Whenever the girls' clothing are described, it is almost always like, sounds like something that you would wear on a spring or summer day, like a black and white sleeveless dress, a green dress with rose patterns with heeled sandals, a t-shirt and shorts. But this book takes place in late October, early November in England, and I know it ain't that warm. Wear some leggings. That's how you get dry skin. Your forced feminization cult leader isn't going to take kindly if you don't drink your water and keep warm. This book has a lot of charming, silly moments interspersed between some very good and relatable trans reflections, and I really liked those parts. I liked that this book has some good advice for trans girls reading it. Like, yeah, eyeliner looks really cool, but it's literally the most difficult aspect of makeup. Just stick to mastering eyeshadow or getting comfortable wearing lip gloss at first. It's way easier, and it will make your cult leader happy. Just as happy. I don't know if you should read or not read this. You will relate to it for sure if you are a trans woman, but like the content warning says, it may be triggering depending on where you are on your journey, but it also may be a nice read, something you could relate to. So, I don't know. This book is only 15 chapters, and the series is up to 50 chapters on AO3. Maybe I'll catch up to it someday. I don't know. Oh yeah, also it's free to read on AO3, so just go there and read it. I didn't realize this till way later on, so I used my state's interlibrary loan system to get this for no reason, actually. But it's fine. It's good for circulation, and libraries deserve to be used. So it's fine. That was Welcome to Dorley Hall, a perplexing read, but I was highly entertained. This will be a much shorter review. I read A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, and this is a book I got from Book of the Month. I got it for like $5. I can't remember how much it was to get like a book at the time when I subscribed to this. I don't remember why I picked it at this point, but I'll just give you the premise. Jack Tamerlane hasn't set foot in his hometown of Cadence in a decade, as he has been studying music at university on the mainland. Girls have started to go missing in Cadence, and so Jack is called back home to help solve where the girls have gone, I assume. Cadence is different than the mainland. There are spirits on the Isle that like to intermingle with the humans. Enchantments work differently, it seems, here than elsewhere. And most importantly, Jack is a bard, and the spirits only answer to a bard's music. Adara, the heiress of the East, hopes Jack can draw the spirits forth with song to figure out where the missing girls have gone, but Jack and Adara aren't exactly keen on working together, as they are childhood enemies. Yeah, so this book is like super atmospheric, and it's also like, it has beautiful prose, but I could not pay attention to the story. It is so boring. The book is like 80% vibes with no plot, and sometimes that's fine with me, but I just didn't care enough about anything that was happening. So I did drop this book about 30% in. This just really goes to show that I will read anything if it's entertaining, because I read all of this book despite it not being very well written, and I will drop the story really fast if it's boring. It can be written so thoughtfully and delicately, but it doesn't matter to me if nothing happens in the story. I wanted to care about Jack's relationship to his hometown, but the perspective shifted just enough where it felt like Jack's story wasn't even that important, and the character perspectives they shift into, it isn't Adara, like the secondary character. It's like this other bro, and I don't care about them. I just did not care at all about what was going on with that bro. Anyway, if stories inspired by Scottish fairy tales is your thing, you should definitely try this. I'm just personally not very interested in finishing the story. It was just not written in a way that I was interested in at all. What did I read? Oh, I read this book. I'm just gonna like briefly touch on Brigands and Breadknives because I did read it for book club. Brigands and Breadknives talks about Fern. She is a character that was in the prequel of Legends and Lattes. This is like actually like more of a traditional fantasy story of a middle-aged rat finding their way in the world, and I really liked it. I think if you liked Legends and Lattes and want something that has a bit more action in it, I think you'll really like this book. It's really cute. Full review will be up on my booktube channel with all the rest of the book club friends. But yeah, this is a chaos goblin named Zell. They're great. This is a stoic elf named Asterix and Fern, and there's a horse named Bucket. Say on that one because there's going to be like an entire 2-hour stream talking about it. So that's all the books I read. I also read more JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Crusaders. Let me draw some books and then I can play Sonic. I don't have very many books left. I really want to finish this year. Why did I put so many books in here? Let's see, first one. Is it a book? It is a book. Oh, okay. It's The Lost Dreamer by Liz Hilarta, but it's not a book I own. The Lost Dreamer by Liz Hilarta. This is a yellow book, which is kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. Indira is a dreamer descended from the long line of seers. Able to see beyond reality, she carries the rare gift of dreaming truth, but when the beloved king dies, his son has no respect for the time-honored tradition. King Alkin wants an opportunity to bring the dreamers to a permanent end. Oh dear. So I guess we'll see what Indira wants to do about that. Now I draw a second book because I need to know what else I need to read for the year. The year? The month? Maybe year, depending on how long it takes me. Let's go here. What did I get? Oh, okay. This is one of my books. Honestly, at this point, these books that I've purchased for myself, I'm like, do I even want to read these anymore? I'm having more fun still with like the user submitted books. This one was suggested to me by a professional book recommendation service called TBR.com. This is the last one of the 3 that they gave me. DNF'd one of them because it was that weird genital geyser book, but this one I have high hopes for. One is The Last Hour Between Worlds. I don't even know who wrote it. Let me grab the book real fast. Let me move everything out of the way. Yeah, The Last Hour Between Worlds by Melissa Caruso. And this is a Illumicrate edition, so it has sprayed edges that are pretty. I assume it has, yeah. It like kind of, I can't even show it because my new like thingy isn't here yet. Whoa, it's shiny. Woo! I'm getting a new mount for my camera when I'm doing things like Lego streams and whatnot, but it's not here yet. What is this book about? A star investigator and her rival journey through layers of reality to save the world as they know it in this whip-smart adventure fantasy packed full of reality-bending magic, sapphic romance, and tantalizing mystery. Okay, that could be good. We'll see. We'll see. A lot of these Illumicrate ones, I'm like, why was that the choice? This is not a good book. But I have hope. All right. That's that. We're done now. Thank you for surviving.